Welcome everyone to the Flyte Contributors Meetup. Today is May 25th. David Espejo and happy to be your host. This meeting is being recorded and recordings will be posted to the Flyte YouTube channel. And this meeting also falls under the Linux Foundation's Code of Conduct. Great. And also yesterday I became aware that May is GitHub's Maintainers Month. So happy Maintainers and Contributors Month. Great. So let's get started. Sharing here.
Sorry. Hey, Honix, good to see you, man. Thank you for joining.
Hey, nice to see you. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I'm sharing here links to the agenda and notes. Feel free to add yourself to attend this list. This is optional, but be great. And yeah, welcoming new members. Welcome Hongxin, aka Honix. Great to have you here. We'd like, for the benefit of the audience, we'd like to briefly introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. I'm Hongxin, Honix. It's my GitHub handle, or my handle in general. I work for Spotify. I'm one of the first engineers introducing Flyte to Spotify, I believe, when it was still in the lift. Thank you to meet you, everyone.
Yeah, Honix needs no introduction, David. His fame precedes him, so he's awesome. Thank you for joining.
Awesome, great. And also I see Jay joining for the first time. Again, welcome, great to have you.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Yeah, it is my first time here. I work at Freenom with Gio and Greg. I think Greg is here as well. And yeah, it's great to be here.
Awesome, thanks for joining, great to have you. All right, yeah, again, let me share my screen real quick and we'll go over the agenda. So the first thing, outstanding RFCs, and probably that leads me to the first comment here. We will try, unless there's any objection, to use the time here in this meeting to discuss only new RFCs or RFCs that you intentionally put here in the agenda to discuss something very specific. And for the remaining discussions, keep them async, because there's a huge risk, I've seen this in the past in other projects, that a single RFC could take the entire meeting. So we want to avoid this, and well, we want to leave time for other conversations also. So yeah, I don't see any new RFCs here in the board, unless I'm missing something or it's not labeled, but does anyone has any new proposal to introduce? I don't think so. Right. So next up will be eager mode. There's a question, I don't know if it's probably from Fabio. What happens to child executions when an eager task is aborted? Is this from you,
I asked the question. Maybe we can also, because I saw the agenda before, we can also take it to the RFC if you prefer, but that's a question that came to me. Because my suspicion is that it will dangle and not be killed.
I think they will all be killed, I think, because
there's just no way, right?
Currently it's not possible, right? Because
that idea of a failure node, like how
will you do it?
Yeah.
No, we have to build certain things, but I think the expectation of the user is that the entire tree is killed, isn't it?
Exactly. We're not changing this with eager mode, right?
We should not, but I think currently it's not doable. I think there is a different question, probably, Fabio, that you're asking
No, I mean, the question that I'm asking is when we create an eager task, then eager task behind the scenes will use Flyte remote to start other executions that are not technically part of the workflow graph, right? And when the workflow that contains the eager task is now aborted, the eager task will shut down, but the executions that they were started by it using Flyte remote, they will probably not be shut down, I expect. But as you said, I think the user would expect that they are.
Yep. And I think in the current experimental mode, that may not happen, but I think we should probably quickly follow up with like making sure the expectation is fulfilled, because that is the expectation that most people have. Like, oh, all the downstream is cleaned up. It could be done, right? We could handle this as a specific either plugin or a node within Propeller, or we could do something else completely, entirely.
It's fair. It's totally fair, in my opinion, that the first implementation doesn't do it, but I think it's something that users will ask.
Oh, absolutely.
So
I think, and this is great to add as a thing that, hey, this currently is experimental. This will potentially cause downstream leaks, and let's figure out if people really want it. Like, what we really want to do is first figure out the caveats here. That's the number one thing.
okay, then I'll write a sentence about what we discussed now in the RC, and from my side we can continue to the next.
Thank you, Fabio.
Next point.
Do everybody agree? Like, I don't know if Onyx even has read this RFC.
No, I have not.
Yeah, you will like it, Onyx. You should read the RFC.
Yeah, I think I will. But there's already something catching me that try except statement not supported. I think exactly today we got an internal user asking for this exact feature.
Yep. So there is a failure mode node that is being worked on by Eduardo, but this is like arbitrary Python. This allows you to write arbitrary Python or Java or whatever language. It doesn't matter. And what we want to do is get started with this early, figure out the problems, and then make the model much more replicatable across all languages, etc. We'll start it with Python, and I think that the entire implementation might twist a little bit for this, right? There are some other systems that do this. There are negatives. We are trying to even do more, right? We are actually saying that the actual async eager thing is a task. That means it could run a Spark job if you really want, or it could run on GPUs or hundreds of CPUs, right? It doesn't matter. It's like, it could happen. And you can now do downstream things with it, which is really powerful. Nobody's done this today. So, but we want to be careful before we do this.
Does this mean there is not like a type checking, right? So anything can go, right? I'm just looking through the RFC as well. It says the downside or never compiled.
Why do you say this? We still have the notion of type checking.
Yeah.
In eager mode.
There's no static analysis of the graph.
Yeah.
Like, there's no static type checking. Runtime type checking will exist, right? It'll always exist.
Oh, sounds good.
Yeah. So what will happen is, like, if there is a bug in your code, you will find it at execution time. This is the sad part, right? It is what it is.
Yeah, similar to dynamic today, right?
Yeah.
Like, you basically have the same problem. Runtime errors.
Yeah.
Runtime type errors.
Yeah, but this is actually a little worse than dynamic, because dynamic can spit out the entire graph. We statically analyze it, and we could fail earlier. Here, let's say if you're going through the graph, you might go 50% of the way and then fail because of like an integer to string casting error or something. But this is Python problem. We can't do much with it. And it's a trade-off, right? All of the static stuff is still there. Dynamic will still be there. This is like in cases when you want that extra flexibility. And when we want to be careful in telling the audience and the people, the community people, that use it only if you really need it. Don't use it all the time.
These were started as experimental. Like, we're going to learn how to expose this properly, right? So, yeah.
Right. Great. Thank you. Great. Next up in the RFC is the execution tags. I see at least 3 questions coming from you, Fabio, also.
Not necessarily questions. I made a PR in which a PR into that PR where I changed the document a bit from the changes that we discussed last time. Please review if you agree, but nothing we need to discuss right now, I would say. Basically, there's this part where we say, hey, we could do like this, where there are specific tags that have a special meaning, or users can use arbitrary tags. And last time we agreed that basically we don't want to force on users that there are specific tags with a specific meaning, and the PR just removes this part. Yeah, and then there's this question by Ili, I can't say.
Oh, I should reply to some of them.
Yeah.
My bad. I will reply to some of the questions. I've been a little busy recently. Sorry.
Obviously, no worries.
I mean, we should have tags for all entities, right? Like, there's no reason for us to just do this for workflow executions, and adding tags and removing them after the fact should also be supported. Like,
I don't want us to remove tags.
no.
The removing is a very, yeah, maybe I'll have to read the comment, but I do agree tags should be system wide ideally. And this is where he was talking about something a couple days ago. And I said, like, let's consider tags being a system wide concept. Then how will they look? And we could start with like executions as being the first thing. It's the most obvious need is in executions first.
Yeah. Let's discuss.
Would you say that? Yeah, let's discuss the RC, but I think they need to be removable because from experiment tracking source, people say, "Hey, let's mark this one as good one, and then you have a better one, so you want to remove that tag." I think people will expect that you can remove them.
I think it's a separate question. If like we want to have like an audit trail of tags, you know. But they should be like easy to tag.
The reason why I said whether it's removable or no is because let's say we want to have a behavior on the tag. So for example, if you want to say, get me the latest or the correct execution, and based on that, get me the output of that execution. And I have a downstream behavior like a service that's using this to pull down the data, let's say a model.
You're already building a thing on top of like tags, right? That maintains state essentially. Yeah,
but like now then it's suddenly you're switching thing under the covers without really telling. And you know, our ethos with Flyte is things are reproducible and like, you know, we have tracking. So I am not opposed to the idea, but let's, you know, probably just talk and I will comment back.
Yeah, let's discuss it.
It's my bad.
I do think that we should separate like how easy it should be to use the feature versus like this idea of, you know, versioning everything, like auditability, like, yeah. But as I said, let's go discuss the IRC. I think there's a lot of good ideas there. And I already started, you know, discussing with Kevin how we go about implementing like at least a V0 simple.
Yeah, much of it exists, but like, I think MySQL is where all the hair at. Is Byron or
no, that's
LinkedIn team here.
It's not present yet because, you know, it's very much of an implementation detail, but I have discussed with Kevin like an idea for implementing this that doesn't require any extension, you know.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but again, I think the big ideas of the RC should be discussed there. Let's not take more time this meeting.
Yeah, Honix, I would also recommend you guys should take a look at the RC. I think you'll like some of the things in the proposal.
All right, thank you. I will take a look.
Cool.
Right. Yeah, there's a question from Bernard. Isn't that the same as Docker or Git does? I mean, with the possibility of using the hash in case you want something more stable downstream?
Yeah, basically to maybe add a line to that. So like with tags, right? A lot of systems already use tags where the tags are something that you shouldn't rely on, but you have a possibility that, say, a Docker hash or a Git hash that you could use. So I think the concept is around in similar systems. I'm not sure if we would like to have a similar thing.
I agree about Docker. There's a digest, right, that you can pin. That's what you're referring to, right?
Yeah, exactly. For example, the latest tag, you know, can be on anything. You can also like remove a tag, and yeah, it's a tag, right? So you can remove it and put it on again. So I think, yeah.
Great. Thank you all. Anything else in regards to this proposal, execution tags? Nope. Okay, next up, the config overrides RFC. Results of latest discussion needs to be incorporated. And what happens after that?
Round time. So I will finish the IDL part this week, and then Ben-Hurt and Fabio can start the work.
Right. Yeah, I think there's another topic here from Bernard on how to split up work for the config override RFC, which is also related to my point here on community groups implementation. So probably I'm not sure if it's the answer to the question here, but some pieces of feedback coming from Yi and other community members around how to ensure that there's ownership for RFC implementation comes to proposing that almost every RFC typically should, when it's accepted, should land in a working group or should result in starting a working group, which remember, it's a very focused, small community group with a single deliverable, which is in this case implementing the accepted proposal. And after it's done and communicated, it's disbanded. It's kind of lightweight. So not sure if that answers the question, what happens next in terms of the RFC process, if it has the necessary approvals and there's no objection. Remember, it's in the final comment period. It should be ready for the final comments, approvals, and be merged.
I think
Next thing will be implemented.
I think we came to an agreement how it should look like, but I think the latest state of the agreement is not part of the document that will be merged. Do you agree with that? Or, for example, we recently changed how you would override, how you would create these overrides while writing a workflow. We changed it from the workflow decorator to do it like in the workflow code. I think this needs to go into the RFC document, and then from my side we can merge. And I think other people already commented that they agree.
Oh, you mean merging to my the markdown?
Yeah, I mean, when we merge it, then people will
it.
see the markdown file and they won't see the discussions. So the result of the discussion needs to end up in the markdown file before we merge. But other than that, I would say we can. I think it has one approval already.
I think there's like just a few comments, like we're very close to just approving, just moving this RFC to accept it. But David, can you expand a little bit on like how we're gonna create these working groups? Like how like, yeah, I think it'll be the first time that we're gonna do this. So just want to clarify, what's the next step after this RFC is in.
Yeah, well, everything is here now in the governance document. Yeah, all the process that we already reviewed in the RFC, and right now the steps, basically answering a couple of questions that for this specific RFC they are already there. What's the problem, the artifact, and etc. And just sending a PR to this file in the community repo. It's basically a list. So we can document the group. Pretty easy. Who will lead it? Meetings are not mandatory for working groups. You don't need to establish meetings, but there should be at least a Slack channel for communication. And the mission statement, which is basically, in this case, implement RFC number XYZ. And it should have the approvals from the steering committee, and that's it. That's the process to formalize a working group and get this started.
Cool. And we are doing this in a YAML file because this is going to be fed into some automation, or just because you
That's the
like.
idea. That not right now, but
Okay.
it's the next stage to feed this into an automation that creates folders and etc. But right now, it's kind of the fastest way that I found to document. Hey, this working group exists, and that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Is there a Slack
Great.
channel or something for this group? Like for passive watchers like me? Like, how do you observe the progress?
Not yet. We're gonna follow the process, for
Cool.
this working group, and
Awesome.
you'll be invited. Don't worry.
Great. Okay. So regarding the config overrides, any other comment, question? Nope. Okay. Next up, there are a lot of points here in the open mic questions, so I will leave them here at the end. So let's get started with Flyte kit regressions on 1.6.1.
It's Bernard's point. Maybe you start at this subpoint.
Yeah. First off, thank you for making the 1.6 release. It's great. We're already on it on the Flyte side. On the Flyte kit side, we are not. And we're super stoked to get on it because just because of the performance fixes. We've noticed just out in the field 3 or 4 regressions. I think most of them are in Slack threads or in tickets already. Just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware as feedback. We are not in a rush also to switch but we are blocked on like 3 or 4 things. Not sure if someone else has seen stuff.
I've seen a stream of tickets. Yes, Bernard, thank you. I'm more curious about like how we should
prevent
something like this, like bugs will happen, right? It's the nature of software, but like
how can we do a beta testing group?
Yeah, like do you think it's worth like fixing this idea of like, hey, we do nightly or something, and we use or leverage this community here to catch errors earlier? We can discuss more about this, asynchronously, but like, yeah, I'm curious to know more about like your idea, like.
Yeah, if there's an alpha or nightly, we do have pretty good test coverage on our code, and we do continuous delivery. So we are happy to just try it out, run our tests on it, and can at least tell you when things blow up. So if that's something we can help with, that's definitely a thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
We can do the same now.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That ever nightly. I think if every company within the group kind of helps us do one portion of their tests, right? The surface area is so wide that we sometimes may not catch everything. So this will be amazing.
Cool. I'll ping you on Slack because I think setting this up will be relatively simple. And yeah, thanks for volunteering. This is one thing that I always wanted to do. It's great that I think.
Yeah. Hanix, can you guys do this as well?
Yeah, I just want to add that. We also have automated PR or something monitoring the open source release and propose an internal PR automatically. We run through a bunch of integration tests, but not very thoroughly. But indeed, I think in the past it caused a few problems. So sure, we're doing this.
Okay. And Fabio.
But it's not really nightly. It's whatever the latest release has been done, we'll pick it up.
Yeah.
So nightly we can do a release, right? An alpha release.
Yeah.
30
Yeah,
alpha.
sure, we can do that. Yeah.
It's whatever. IPI won't complain.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool. This would be awesome. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. Awesome. All right, next up, splitting up work for config override. From Bernard, anything else you would like to comment here, Bernard?
Now probably, yeah, maybe we should create ourselves a Slack channel or so where we can discuss who's doing what. I think probably this group is too wide for this, I think.
Right. Great. Thank you. Yeah.
We'll create a
next.
Slack channel.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah. Next up was my point on community groups implementation, but you already saw most of it. Feel free to check out the governance doc, ask any question, feedback. It's not perfect, but it's a first step. All right, a related point here, the implementation of privileges for roles in repos. If you pay close attention to the governance doc, especially the path to maintainership, it shows that the scope of permissions is for a specific repo or repos. And right now, we would like to define what will be the exact implementation of these permissions in the repository or repos. Ideally, it should be different per repos. I mean, for a specific repo to have different maintainers, contributors, inheriting permissions. And as you can see here, there's a good explanation of the roles and permissions. Basically, the idea was to have 3 levels. What GitHub calls triage will be something like a role in the middle between community member and contributor. If you're not aware of what I'm talking about, it's again here between a community participant, which is anyone, everyone, any contributor. This role in the middle will have the triage role that basically has the ability to help reviewing PRs, etc., but cannot approve nor merge. And next level will be the contributor with right permissions. They can not only approve, but actually merge. And finally, the maintainer. So yeah, again, we want to keep the path maintainership as simple as possible and as open as possible. And one step for this is to actually implement what's in here in permissions in the repos. Remember that also the kind of the community design is that in the end, SIGs and working groups, every repo should be owned by a SIG or a working group. But that's at a different stage. Right now, it's just defining permissions. So I will put all of this in written form. We'll share it in the channel for you to think and review and let us know what do you think. Any comment about this? All right. Next one, a discussion about adding additional log links from a task.
Maybe I can summarize that. So we discussed a bit about it last week, and there was a thread in the RC incubator, then another issue, and now the discussion is kind of continuing in the issue by somebody who's not here. The idea is that when, let's say we train a model, we have a task called train, and we're logging to some experiment tracking server, which could be whichever one you want, could be MLflow, could be 1TB, something like that. It would be great if in Flyte console we could click a link and immediately bring us to the execution in MLflow or wherever, so we can see the progress. And the question is how we do that and how do we make it show up before the task finished. Currently, at least what we do, and I think what I've also seen other people do, is that we add it to the deck, but the deck has shown that when the task is finished. And there has been the proposal to either do it in the task or basically expose a way in the task decorator to say, to add a link to Flyte console, an additional one that uses templating. So for example, you could use the execution ID or the project as Jinja templates. Maybe if you scroll down, maybe can I share my screen? Because I think I can scroll to these things. Or I sent a link to maybe the comment, the exact one.
Yeah, because there's actually some people saying, that you cannot really just templatize it because of the
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. So if we do so, doing it in the task decorator, which would be at registration time, should be fairly simple. But the caveat is that you have to know at registration time how the link will look like at runtime, or at least with variables, right? For example, for 1TB, that would easily work, because what we do is that with the 1TB Python API, we create tags that use information from the Flyte context, like version and execution ID. And since we know that we will be doing this in the task, we could already at registration time create the link using templates, right? The assumption then is that one actually does it in the code. So there will be a brief time when the task has started where the link will already be in the Flyte console, but actually there's nothing there yet. But probably that's something we can live with. For other, David, I pasted the link in the chat. Maybe you can share that because it shows the different two options. The other option that was proposed by Niels is that it would be cool if one could do that via Flyte context, but there is no mechanism to communicate that. The upside, if there was such a mechanism, so that's the upper. So basically these two things here. Either the lower one, we do it in the task decorator. We have some link here. The link contains Jinja variables. And then if one in the code creates the respective tag with 1TB, this link would resolve correctly and would work. There are other experiment tracking servers where this won't work because because either the links are not templatable, for example. So you can't just parameterize the URL because it's just not built that way. And then that won't work. Niels proposed the upper solution here, where you take the Flyte context and then say add log link, but there isn't a communication channel, so this wouldn't work, even though it would probably be the perfect solution. I've been wondering, I want to hear your opinion on whether something like that would work. I mean, what we probably don't want to do, you commented on that, then that the task actually like makes a call to Flyte admin or something, because in a multi-cluster setup that would be terribly complicated and it's a major change to how it works. Probably we don't want to do that. I'm
also worried about the reliability aspects of such a thing.
Why would you have to check admin?
No, dude. Like, how do you publish? Like, this is like real-time events, and you can't control because this is user code. So people can send random events, right? Like it's just whatever they want.
But they won't flow through Flyte, right?
No, in this case, that was the proposal. One of the proposal was to actually send it to admin or something, which is dangerous.
Yeah, that's not realistic. So one thing that I want to ask would like to have your opinion on is the DAC implementation currently works like this. The user code constructs an HTML file, and then the HTML file is uploaded when the task finishes, right?
Right.
It's put into blob storage, and then Flyte console retrieves it from blob storage and serves it in the UI.
Yep.
Currently, the DAC is uploaded only when the task finishes, right? Couldn't we just trigger the upload from the user code, and then Flyte console takes whatever latest version is in the bucket? Does it have to be uploaded only in the end? Because that could be a mechanism to communicate the link once it was created. And then follow-up question, couldn't we use the same mechanism for links also? So it's not the DAC.
It could. It's just like, it's like misusing a blob storage for.
I agree.
Yeah. Again, it can be done. And I think, to be honest, this is, again, I'll give you a union perspective on this. And one of the things is we think this would be a great addition to Flyte, to have like a real-time event source from or event sync available in Flyte from the tasks, but it's just not like the community. Already today, see like deploying Flyte, people ask hundreds of questions. And we're like, all right, here you go. Now you have to deploy Kafka or like that is durable cluster. People are like, nope, you don't want to do it, right? So I would love it because Union can provide a hosted service for this, to be honest. but I don't know if this is the right thing.
I want to put too that this is the same problem that's blocking like Flyte kit runtime metrics as well right now. We're talking about how Flyte kit can emit spans for certain things. So if a user wants to say, here's my task, and we'll break down the runtime into X and Y and Z and report that to the UI. It's the exact same problem of that communication channel. And do you use Plot or do you use open communication to admin? So I think that's kind of a core problem to a lot of these extensions.
So may I recommend one thing? May I recommend that we actually make Flyte kit have the capability of sending events with no op, right, as the default. And then companies who want to do it, build the receiver. Because I don't think we should force the community people to actually have this. And then use the default like S3 or something as an implementation that's available in, like Blockstore available in the open source. And say, use it at your own risk. I don't know.
I mean, also, to put it in perspective, we don't necessarily need it. If we do it in the task decorator, with the experiment tracking server that we use, I think we can make it work.
One thing I don't like about that is the task decorators are recorded in the database. And so let's say if you change the endpoint in some way,
yes,
it's like, then it won't work. So it should be like, in this case, it's like log link, right? That's why we put logging server configuration in the backend. And the reason why that is even if you take an older execution workflow and run it, the log links will be updated based on your newer settings, which is the right approach in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah. But the problem is, for example, that with experiment tracking stores, that wouldn't work because not every task.
It doesn't.
You have no control over it.
Yeah, we have no control. There's like hundreds of them. So maybe we just add this capability. I think in the decorator, it will mostly work because most people don't change their providers, right? 99% will work.
Yeah. And we don't put, admin in the hot path. Like,
I would want to keep admin stable. I think reliability is of bigger, more importance for most of us, I'm sure, than one more log link.
I agree.
Because I don't think Postgres is made to. I know there are some people, some communities who are doing that, but stable.
Would there be a way to, and this is just spitballing, but right now the log links, that templatized variables in there are very like static. What if we can have like environment variables or like things like that where we include it, and then if a person runs a workflow, you can set a label or an environment variable to a certain thing, and we can include that in the log links. Maybe there's a way we can leverage something a little bit more dynamic for workflow executions.
And we do have that now, right? We have environment variables that you can pass directly from the CLI.
Right.
Or even like put that behind, some code. Like you don't have to necessarily put the URL there. Like
I have another option. In Propeller, we do this, Dan. Maybe we do the same in Flyte kit. Have a buffering system for events. And the buffer flush interval is in like some size.
Like you have to auth. Like there's
No, you put the buffered events in S3. Like what Fabio is saying. Just put them in S3 and make Flyte deck literally dynamic. And just have a buffer interval. You set that buffer interval to be like 1 megabyte. When you hit 1 megabyte, you upload. And I think that's okay. So it's not immediate. It might be a few minutes later, 1 megabyte or whatever, like 10 seconds. What do you think about that, Fabio?
I agree with your point that we're kind of misusing blob storage at that point, but it would,
but if you buffer,
it would not require any new communication channels, right?
Yep.
That's what I like about it. And
it'll work in most cases.
I don't care whether the link is a minute late. I care about the link not being there 12 hours later when the training's finished. I need to look at the loss curve. I don't need to look at it like in the exact second, but if it's a minute later or so, that would be amazing. So basically, if I could do from the Python side, flyte.current context dot upload deck or something, or flush deck.
Yep. So that basically an update to the deck API to make it like either the end of the task. Well, end of the task should always be the case,
yes,
or have a flush interval. Really,
that would solve, I think, the problem. Yeah. Then we wouldn't build a new feature for log links, because then we could include it in the doc, and there would be the deck, and there would be a way to make it appear before the task finished.
And it would also like help in like poor man's version of task tracking, like training tracking, etc. Every few seconds. It's really poor man's, but people won't have. And as we mature, we might find a solution in there, in my opinion.
How does it work currently?
We can take this offline.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. Okay. But this is great. This is great point. I think the Stripe guys proposed this, and so there's already some momentum, and the number of people who replied to it the moment it was proposed, it just shows that people want it. Having a solution is a good thing.
Awesome. Thank you all. Right, the next topic, Pydantic plugin.
Is Niels here today? I don't think he is, right? I think I can reach out to him about that. He's already aware, and I'm basically asking. I want to ask him some questions, but we can take this offline maybe.
There's some guy who replied to you. Did you see that, Fabio?
I did see that, yeah, and he's right. Like he's right. Like the current implementation will be broken by allowing arbitrary types. And I think that if we allow arbitrary types, that will basically be a re-implementation of the data class type transformer. And I wonder how we can do that so that we don't duplicate all the code.
Should be doable.
Yeah.
Just code restructuring.
And like we're
the question is
not exactly in love with the data class transformer. You know,
nobody likes the data class transformer. Only Kevin knows how to update it, I think.
Like there's one change that Eli made to like make the data class transformer like a lot simpler, and essentially would reuse the type engine for all types, which, you know, if you read the data class transformer code today, it's full of edge cases. We're removing all of that. So I think we should invest in that to help, you know, make Pydantic models better supported.
Okay, what I take away from this is that I'll ping Niels and Kevin on Slack maybe, and we take it there.
And take a look at this PR that I'm talking about. Like it's another PR.
That's a current one?
Yeah, okay. I'll send you the...
I'll find it. I'll find it.
PR number.
Yeah, I also like the idea of Pydantic because data class transform is a little slow. Some people have also talked about moving away from Marshmallow to what is the other one? Mashumaro.
Yeah, Mashumaro.
Mashumaro, yeah.
That's what this PR by Eli kind of like unlocks, you know?
Oh.
Because he will not be tied to the data class JSON transformer anymore. But it requires some work.
Yeah. And I think there are couple other things. I think these are all the topics, but there was a couple other things that someone is working on. PyFlyte run from remote file. I just love that feature. I think there is some community member who's working on it. So yeah, I don't know. They are not in this meeting. So sorry, I don't know them. I just saw the work on it. Cool stuff happening. Is that it?
Awesome.
David? Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of agenda items, that's it. Is there anything else you all like to comment, share here? No? All right. Thank you all for your time. It was, as usual, a great one, and hope to see you in the next. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. This was amazing.
Thank you.
Congrats
Thank
on
you.
your round.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
That's not Flyte, that's Union.
Still.
But yeah, but hopefully we will power more in Flyte. We are here for you guys. So take care, guys. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.